He's a motherfucker. There's no other way you can say it. He's a piece of shit. Like we did a nitro in Buffalo.
Scott Steiner names 10 wrestlers he hated. This is not just talk. This is real. Scott Steiner is one of wrestling's most controversial figures. He did not play games. He did not fake it. When he hated someone, everyone knew it. His beefs were not storylines. They were real life. Police got involved. Lawyers got involved. Fists got involved. This video goes through the 10 people Steiner hated most. These stories mix wrestling and real rage. They show a man who could not let things go. Steiner was an NCAA All-American wrestler from the University of Michigan. He had legitimate credentials. He started as a technical tag team wrestler in the late 1980s, but he evolved into Big Poppa Pump. He became one of the most volatile performers in wrestling history. His shoot interviews are legendary. He destroyed the lines between character and reality. He did not just blur them, he obliterated them. This list shows systemic problems in wrestling. It shows nepotism. It shows aging stars refusing to pass the torch. It shows backstage politics. It shows the clash between old school toughness and sports entertainment. Steiner held the WCW World Heavyweight Championship during the company's final days, but his legacy is defined by his unfiltered rage. These are the 10 people who felt it most. Number 10, Tammy Sytch. Tammy Sytch was known as Sunny. She was a massive star in the 1990s. She was one of the first true divas. But by 2000, everything had changed. Her star had faded. Steiner did not respect her. He saw her as unprofessional. He thought she was a complete mess. He thought she represented everything wrong with the business. Sunny had a brief stint in WCW in 2000. It did not go well. Rumors flew everywhere about drug use. People said she acted erratic backstage. People said she was unreliable. Steiner prided himself on physical conditioning. He showed up to work ready to fight. He stayed in incredible shape. He saw Sunny as a liability. She represented the opposite of his values. She was undisciplined. She was chaotic. She was everything he despised. The real problem started with Kimberly Page. Kimberly was married to Diamond Dallas Page. She found drugs in the women's locker room. She claimed they belonged to Sunny. Kimberly reported this to WCW management. This made Steiner absolutely furious. In wrestling, there is a code. You do not snitch on your fellow wrestlers. You handle things internally. You do not go to management. Kimberly violated that code. Steiner hated snitches more than almost anything, but Steiner also blamed Sunny for the situation. Why was she in that position in the first place? Why did she bring drugs to work? Why did she put herself in a situation where someone could report her? He defended her against Kimberly's snitching, but he did not respect her. She broke the unwritten code by being unprofessional. She put herself in danger. She put the locker room in danger. Years later, Steiner's comments got much worse. Sunny's life fell apart after wrestling. She had repeated legal problems. She struggled with addiction. She went to prison for vehicular homicide. She killed someone while driving under the influence. Steiner mocked her in shoot interviews. He used her as a cautionary tale. He laughed at her appearance. He laughed at her choices. He showed no sympathy whatsoever. To Steiner, Sunny represented the diva culture he hated. She was given opportunities because of her looks. She did not have the discipline of a real athlete. She did not respect the business. She disgraced wrestling with her personal life. She became a punchline. Steiner had no problem making that joke. He believed she deserved it. This shows Steiner's worldview clearly. You either take care of yourself or you are worthless. You either maintain your body or you do not deserve respect. Sunny failed that test completely. She was a cautionary tale about what happens when you lack discipline. Steiner used her downfall to mock the entire concept of divas who were not legitimate athletes. She was a symbol of everything soft in wrestling. Number 9, Garett Bischoff. Garett Bischoff is Eric Bischoff's son. That is his only qualification for being in wrestling. Steiner hated him for that reason alone. Garett became a wrestler in TNA wrestling. He appeared on television regularly. He took up valuable airtime. Steiner could not stand it. He could not believe what he was watching. Steiner thought Garett had absolutely no skills. He had no impressive look. He had no athletic background worth mentioning. He had no charisma at all. all. He had nothing that would qualify him to be on national television. He was there for one reason only. His father was Garett Bischoff. Eric ran the creative team. Eric put his son on the show. It did not matter that Garett was not ready. It did not matter that fans did not want to see him. It only mattered that Eric had the power. This was nepotism at its absolute worst. Steiner believed wrestling should be a meritocracy. You should earn your spot. You should prove yourself in the ring. You should connect with the audience. You should have credentials. Garett had none of these things. He was handed everything because of his last name. To Steiner, this was an insult to everyone who worked hard. Steiner went off script repeatedly to bury Garett. He called him unskilled on live television. He called him a waste of airtime. He said Garett did not belong in a wrestling ring. Every minute given to Garett was a minute stolen from real talent. Every segment featuring Garett was a segment that could have featured someone who deserved it, someone who trained for years, someone who paid their dues, someone who earned their spot. To Steiner, Garett was more than just an untalented wrestler. He was a symbol. He represented everything wrong with TNA wrestling. The Hogan and Bischoff regime cared about friends and family. They cared about taking care of their own people. They did not care about the quality of the product. They did not care about what the fans wanted. They did not care about the wrestlers who built TNA before they arrived. They only cared about themselves and their inner circle. Steiner used Garett as a weapon against Eric. He attacked the father by destroying the son on television. He showed the world what nepotism looked like in action. It looked like Garett Bischoff stumbling through a match. It looked like someone completely out of their depth. It looked like wasted potential and wasted time. It looked like a joke that nobody was laughing at. Steiner's hatred was not even personal toward Garett himself. Garett had not betrayed Steiner. Garett had not sabotaged him. Garett had not done anything to him directly. But Garett represented a system that Steiner absolutely despised. He represented the death of meritocracy. He represented the corruption of wrestling. That was enough for Steiner to hate him. That was enough to make him a target. Number 8. Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie McMahon is Vince McMahon's daughter. She married Triple H. She became a WWE executive. Steiner saw her as completely unqualified. He saw her as the ultimate beneficiary of extreme nepotism. She wielded enormous power that she did not earn through wrestling. She got it through birth and marriage. Steiner was asked about WWE during a media call. He was promoting a TNA wrestling event. His answer was absolutely brutal. He said WWE needed to make changes. The first change was getting rid of 2 people. He named Stephanie McMahon and Hunter McMahon. He refused to use Triple H's ring name. He deliberately called him Hunter McMahon instead. This implied that Triple H only had power because he married the boss's daughter. It was a direct insult to both of them. Steiner called them 2 idiots running the whole place. He did not sugarcoat it. He did not hold back at all. He believed they were actively destroying WWE. They had no real credentials as wrestlers. Stephanie never took bumps in the ring on a regular basis. She never drew money as a wrestler. She never had to earn her spot on the card. But somehow she was running creative decisions. She was running the entire company alongside her husband. To Steiner, this was completely unacceptable. Steiner also weaponized rumors to hurt Stephanie. There were urban legends floating around wrestling for years. Stories about Stephanie and Macho Man Randy Savage. These rumors were never proven, but Steiner made crude allusions to them in promos and interviews. He wanted to embarrass the McMahon family. He wanted to inflict maximum personal damage. These comments were designed to humiliate Stephanie publicly. His attacks on Stephanie were often blatantly misogynistic. He mocked her physical appearance repeatedly. He mocked her voice and how she sounded. He said things that crossed the line into outright sexism. But fundamentally, this was about more than gender. This was about control. Stephanie represented the corporate machine that Steiner hated. She represented a system that tried to script everything. She represented a company that wanted total control over wrestlers. Steiner refused to be controlled. He refused to be scripted. He refused to play by corporate rules. Stephanie was the physical embodiment of those rules. She was the enemy. She represented everything wrong with modern wrestling. She represented the death of the territory days. She represented the corporate takeover of what used to be a wild business. To Steiner, Stephanie was a princess who never earned her crown. She was born into power because of her father. She married into more power when she wed Triple H. She never had to prove herself in the ring. She never had to earn respect the hard way. That made her a perfect target for Steiner's rage. Number 7, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was the Heartbreak Kid. He was a multiple-time world champion. He was one of the greatest in-ring performers ever. He was the leader of the clique. Steiner hated him. He saw Michaels as a coward who used backstage politics instead of legitimate toughness. He saw him as everything wrong with the business. The clique was a powerful backstage group in WWE during the 1990s. It included Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Sean Waltman. These men had enormous influence. They protected each other. They helped each other get pushed. They were known for political maneuvering. Steiner was friends with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. They went back years, but he absolutely despised Shawn Michaels. He thought Michaels was soft. He thought Michaels manipulated people because he could not handle himself in a real fight. Steiner loved telling a specific story about Shawn Michaels. It happened in Syracuse, New York. The timeline was the mid-1990s when Michaels was at his peak. Michaels was at a bar one night. He was reportedly acting arrogant and cocky. A group of United States Marines were also at the bar. They did not appreciate Michaels' attitude. They did not care that he was a wrestling star. They beat him up badly. Steiner told this story with absolute glee every chance he got. To him, it proved Michaels was not legitimately tough. The Heartbreak Kid got his heart broken by real fighters. In shoot interviews, Steiner called Michaels a coward repeatedly. He said Michaels would talk trash behind people's backs all the time. But when someone confronted him physically, Michaels would run away. He would cry to Vince McMahon. He would hide behind the boss instead of standing up for himself like a man. Steiner had no respect for that behavior. He believed if you talk trash, you better be able to back it up with your fists. Steiner mocked Michaels for his small size. He mocked him for being cross-eyed. Michaels suffered an injury that affected his eyes. It was a legitimate medical condition from wrestling. Steiner made fun of it anyway. He did not care if it was mean. He did not care if it was insensitive. To Steiner, Michaels deserved mockery. Steiner also attacked Michaels' born-again Christian persona. Later in his career, Michaels found religion. He became a born-again Christian. He claimed to be a changed man. He apologized for his past behavior. He said he was different now. Steiner saw this as completely phony. He thought it was a convenient cover for years of terrible behavior. To Steiner, Michaels was still the same backstage politician. He just had a new public relations excuse. He had a new image to hide behind. Steiner believed wrestling should reward toughness above all else. You should succeed because you are legitimately tough. You should succeed because you can handle yourself. Michaels represented the complete opposite of that philosophy. He was a performer who demanded respect he never earned through physical strength. He earned respect through Vince McMahon's favoritism. He earned it through political games. That was unforgivable to someone like Steiner. Number 6, Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was a top star in TNA wrestling. He was known for being legitimately tough. He was a genuine fighter. He had a mixed martial arts background, but Steiner still went after him viciously. This feud is incredibly complicated. It might have been a work. It might have been real. With Steiner, you could never really be sure what was genuine. The feud is most famous for one legendary promo. Steiner tried to explain his odds of winning a three-way match. He was facing Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle at TNA Sacrifice in 2008. Steiner attempted to break down the mathematics. The math made absolutely no sense. It was complete nonsense. But Steiner delivered it with total conviction. He rambled about percentages and fractions. He ended with a brutal line that became famous. He said the numbers do not lie, and they spelled disaster for Joe at Sacrifice. It became an instant internet meme. Throughout the entire feud, Steiner relentlessly attacked Joe's weight. He called him a fat ass over and over. He called him a sloppy Samoan. He called him a half-breed. During actual matches, Steiner would scream at the top of his lungs. He would point at Joe and yell for the entire arena to hear. He would shout the same thing repeatedly. He would scream that Joe is fat. The crowd absolutely loved it. It got huge reactions. It became a soundbite that people still quote today. Wrestling fans turned it into endless memes and jokes. Steiner knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the insults were working. They generated heat. They got audience reactions. In later interviews, Steiner admitted this openly. He said people still love that promo years later. He said it was all about the delivery. He said it was about how you say something, not just what you say. He knew how to sell his hatred. He knew how to make it feel authentic. But was the hatred actually real? Probably not entirely. This is where it gets complicated. Samoa Joe actually earned Steiner's respect in a way most people did not. Joe was legitimately tough. He could handle himself in a real fight. He was not afraid of confrontation. He was not like Shawn Michaels, who would run to management. He was not like Garett Bischoff, who had no business being in a ring. Joe had real credentials. Joe had real toughness. Steiner could work with someone like that. Samoa Joe confirmed this in his own interviews. He said that while Steiner was extremely intense and wildly unpredictable, they did business together professionally. They had good matches. They made money together. Joe respected Steiner's work. The hatred appeared to be mostly performative. It was character commitment taken to an extreme level. But Steiner's delivery made it feel completely real. That was his absolute genius as a performer. He blurred the lines so perfectly that people believed every word. The Joe feud demonstrates Steiner's unique power. He could make you think he genuinely hated you, even when he did not. Or maybe he did hate you a little bit. With Steiner, you never really knew for certain. That uncertainty was part of his appeal. That danger was what made him special. Number 5, Diamond Dallas Page. Diamond Dallas Page was a major WCW star. He was known for being relentlessly positive. He was known for his incredible work ethic. He overcame long odds to become world champion, but he and Steiner had a violent backstage fight that was completely real. This one was not a work. Blood was spilled. People got hurt. The problem started with DDP's wife at the time, Kimberly Page. She was the one who accused Tammy Sytch of having drugs in the locker room. Steiner absolutely hated this action. Snitching violated the wrestler code completely. You do not report your fellow wrestlers to management. You handle problems internally. You protect each other. Steiner confronted Kimberly about this. Reports say he chased her out of the arena. Kimberly was genuinely terrified for her safety. She told DDP what happened. She also told WCW management. Steiner did not care about the consequences. He went straight to the ring for a live segment. He cut an absolutely vicious promo on Monday Nitro. He insulted Kimberly on national television. He made it personal. He challenged DDP to get a sex change. He said then DDP would have the balls to actually face him like a man. It was cruel. It was deeply personal. It crossed every line of professionalism. When Steiner came backstage after the promo, DDP was waiting for him. DDP felt he had absolutely no choice in the matter. His wife's honor was at stake. She had been threatened and humiliated. He had to fight back. He had to defend her. But it was a terrible mismatch from the start. Steiner was a world-class amateur wrestler from the University of Michigan. He was an NCAA All-American. DDP did not have that kind of background. DDP was not on that level as a legitimate fighter. Steiner described the fight in vivid detail during shoot interviews. He said DDP tried to initiate the fight first. Steiner reacted instantly with his amateur wrestling skills. He said he just double-legged him immediately. He took DDP straight to the ground with a takedown. Then the situation got significantly worse. Steiner tried to inflict permanent damage. He tried to rip DDP's eye out of his head. Steiner admitted this openly in interviews. He said he was going for the eye deliberately. He wanted to hurt DDP badly, but security guards grabbed his hand before he could do serious damage. It took multiple people to pull Steiner off of DDP. Buff Bagwell rushed in to help separate them. Several security guards got involved. It was chaos backstage. DDP was significantly hurt from the encounter. He narrowly avoided serious permanent injury to his eye. The fight was brutal and completely real. It was not staged. It was not a storyline. It was genuine violence between two wrestlers. Unlike the feuds with Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair that never ended, this one actually has a resolution. Steiner and DDP buried the hatchet years later. DDP completely reinvented himself after wrestling. He became a fitness guru and motivational speaker. He created DDP Yoga and built a new career. His whole philosophy changed dramatically. He started preaching forgiveness and letting go of the past. He talked about positive energy and moving forward. Steiner acknowledged that they smoothed things out eventually. He said the violence was because of the insane pressure they were all under. WCW was dying in 2000. The company was collapsing. Emotions were running extremely high. Everyone was stressed. Everyone was worried about their future. Steiner said it was not really about personal hatred between him and DDP. It was about the terrible environment they were working in. It was about the chaos of a company in its death throes. But in that specific moment when the fight happened, Steiner genuinely wanted to hurt DDP. He wanted to rip his eye out. That was real rage in real time. That shows how dangerous Steiner could be when he felt disrespected. Number 4, Ric Flair. Ric Flair is the nature boy. He is widely considered one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. He is a 16-time world champion. He is a legend. Steiner does not care about any of that. He calls Flair a jealous old bastard. He calls him a backstabbing, butt-sucking bastard. This feud goes back multiple decades. The hatred runs deep. The hatred started all the way back in 1991. It was Clash of the Champions 14. The Steiner brothers were facing Ric Flair and Barry Windham in a tag team match. Scott Steiner was still young at this point. He had enormous potential. He was incredibly athletic. He had the look. He could have been groomed as a future world champion. He could have been the next big star. But Ric Flair stopped that from happening. According to Steiner's version of events, Flair deliberately sabotaged the match. He sandbagged Steiner throughout the bout. Sandbagging is a wrestling term. It means making your body completely dead weight. It makes it nearly impossible for your opponent to execute their moves properly. Flair refused to cooperate with Steiner's suplexes and power moves. He made himself heavy. He made Steiner look weak and unpolished on live television. Steiner saw this as a deliberate political assassination attempt. Flair was protecting his spot at the top of the card. He was burying a young star who might eventually replace him. He was killing Steiner's push before it could really start. This resentment simmered inside Steiner for nearly a decade. It finally exploded in February 2000. Steiner was on WCW Monday Nitro with a live microphone. He had a segment that was supposed to be a standard heel promo. Instead, he went completely off script. This is called a shoot in wrestling. Flair was not even in the building that night. Steiner destroyed him anyway. Steiner talked about Macho Man Randy Savage, who had recently died. He said when Savage was buried 6 feet under, he was still styling and profiling. Then Steiner turned his attention to Flair. He said when Flair used his little brain and stole Savage's name, there was one thing he could not steal. That was Savage's class. He said when Flair walked down the aisle the previous week, people at home grabbed their remotes. They changed the channel to WWF. They watched Stone Cold Steve Austin instead. Steiner blamed Flair for getting Stone Cold fired from WCW years earlier. He called Flair a jealous old bastard. Then Steiner said something absolutely shocking for someone holding a championship. He told the fans that WCW sucks. He told them to watch the competition instead. He was literally the WCW World Heavyweight Champion when he said this. He insulted his own employer on live television. He called Ric Flair the biggest ass-kissing, backstabbing, butt-sucking bastard in wrestling history. He said Flair belonged in WCW because WCW sucks, and so does Flair. The entire promo was devastating. Steiner was suspended by WCW for this promo. It was legitimate insubordination. He violated every rule about protecting the business. He violated kayfabe. He told fans to watch the competitor. He buried his own company while holding their top title. But the promo is now considered legendary. It is one of the purest shoot promos in wrestling history. It is completely unfiltered rage delivered on live television. The hatred did not fade with time. It actually got worse. In 2022, Ric Flair announced he was having a last match. Flair was 73 years old. He was coming out of retirement one more time. Steiner was asked for his thoughts on Flair's return. His response was absolutely chilling. He said Flair is not an old friend of his. He said he would kill Flair in the ring if they fought. He said he would destroy him. He said everybody wants to see Flair get beat up. There was no warmth. There was no nostalgia. There was only hatred. Steiner also repeatedly mocked Flair's physical appearance over the years. He famously said in a promo that just one time Flair should have taken a cab instead of a limousine. He should have used that money to fix his crooked yellow teeth. It was a personal attack on Flair's appearance. It was meant to humiliate him. To Steiner, Flair represents the absolute worst of the old guard in wrestling. He is a man who refuses to retire gracefully. He refuses to pass the torch to younger talent. He refuses to step aside. He refuses to even fix his teeth. He is everything wrong with wrestling's old school mentality. personality. He is a relic who should have disappeared years ago. Number 3, Garett Bischoff. Garett Bischoff was the president of World Championship Wrestling. He later worked as an executive alongside Hulk Hogan in TNA Wrestling. Steiner absolutely despises him. He sees Bischoff as a coffee boy who accidentally stumbled into power. He sees him as completely incompetent. He sees him as a destroyer of wrestling companies. He has no respect for Bischoff whatsoever. Steiner constantly mocks Bischoff's origins in the wrestling business. Bischoff worked in the American Wrestling Association before joining WCW. Steiner calls him a lackey and a coffee boy. He says Bischoff was just a low-level employee who got incredibly lucky. He stumbled into a position of power he never deserved. He only survived by serving Hulk Hogan like a servant. Steiner also mocks Bischoff's martial arts background relentlessly. He calls it fake karate. He says Bischoff cannot actually fight. He mocks Bischoff's physical size constantly. He calls him a weasel. He calls him a pussy. He says Bischoff is physically weak and pathetic. The hatred intensified dramatically during their time together in TNA wrestling. Bischoff and Hulk Hogan took over creative control in 2010. Steiner was already on the TNA roster when they arrived. He warned TNA President Dixie Carter not to hire them. He told her it would be a fatal mistake. He said Hogan would drain the company's financial resources. He said Hogan would only push his old friends. He said they would alienate the core fan base that built TNA. Steiner believes he was proven absolutely right about everything. Bischoff made sweeping changes to TNA almost immediately. He got rid of the unique six-sided ring that defined TNA. He stopped focusing on the X-Division high flyers that fans loved. He started hiring expensive former WWE and WCW stars. These were over-the-hill wrestlers past their prime. Steiner said Bischoff was trying to recreate WCW instead of building TNA's own identity. He was ignoring the young homegrown talent. He was bleeding the company dry financially to pay for his friends. When Steiner left TNA in 2012, he immediately went on Twitter. He unleashed an absolutely relentless barrage of insults. He attacked both Bischoff and Hogan constantly. He called them destroyers. He said they ruined TNA. TNA Wrestling responded by filing a lawsuit against Steiner. They claimed he breached his contract. They claimed his statements were defamation. They wanted to silence him legally. They sought an injunction to stop him from talking. Steiner countersued immediately. He said TNA owed him royalty payments. He said his contract had already expired. He said he was exercising his First Amendment rights to free speech. The legal battle dragged on for years. It was essentially a proxy war between Steiner and Bischoff. Steiner accused Bischoff of complete financial mismanagement. He demanded a jury trial. He wanted to expose Bischoff's incompetence in open court. He wanted to reveal how Bischoff and Hogan manipulated Dixie Carter. He said they treated her like a mark. In wrestling, a mark is a gullible fan with money. He said they used her to fund their lifestyles while TNA's ratings stagnated and declined. The lawsuits were eventually settled or dismissed, but Steiner never backed down from his statements. He never apologized. He never retracted anything he said. In 2024, Steiner still publicly says that Bischoff does not know how to run a company. He says Bischoff only cares about protecting his own interests and his own bank account. To Steiner, Garett Bischoff is the definition of a fraud. He is a man who destroyed World Championship Wrestling with his incompetence. Then he came to TNA and tried to destroy that company too. He is a man who never earned respect from the wrestlers. He never took a bump. He never drew money. He was just a corporate parasite who attached himself to Hulk Hogan and rode his coattails. Number 2, Triple H. Triple H is Paul Levesque. He married Stephanie McMahon and became a WWE executive. He is now one of the most powerful people in wrestling. Steiner hates him intensely. He thinks Triple H deliberately sabotaged his WWE run. He thinks Triple H is a politician who slept his way to the top through his relationship with the boss's daughter. Steiner joined WWE in late 2002 after sitting out his Time Warner contract. His debut at Madison Square Garden was absolutely huge. The crowd gave him a thunderous ovation. Fans were excited to see Big Poppa Pump in WWE, but things went downhill incredibly fast. Steiner was suffering from drop foot syndrome at the time. This is a serious nerve condition. It paralyzed the muscles in his foot. He could barely move properly in the ring. His mobility was severely limited. Despite this injury, Steiner was immediately put into a major title program. He was facing Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship. Triple H was in the middle of his infamous reign of terror at this time. He dominated Raw as champion for months. Steiner believes Triple H deliberately exposed his injury on purpose. He thinks Triple H wanted to make him look bad. Their match at Royal Rumble 2003 is infamous for being terrible. It was awkward and disjointed. It was full of suplexes that did not flow properly. The crowd turned on the match completely. It was a disaster. Steiner blames Triple H entirely for burying him. Burying is a wrestling term. It means intentionally making someone look bad to hurt their career. Triple H refused to sell Steiner's offense properly. He refused to lay out the match in a way that protected Steiner's strengths. He made Steiner look weak and sloppy. To Steiner, this was deliberate sabotage. Triple H was protecting his own spot at the top. He was afraid of being replaced by a new star. He killed Steiner's momentum before it could build. Then came the infamous drug test incident. WWE management approached Steiner in 2003 and requested he take a steroid test. Steiner looked around the locker room. He looked directly at Triple H. Triple H was absolutely massive at this time. He was extremely muscular and vascular. Steiner thought the request was completely political. He believed WWE was trying to fire him. They wanted to get rid of him because he did not fit their plans. Steiner agreed to take the test, but he had one specific condition that changed everything. He said Triple H had to take the test too. He wanted them to go together in a limousine to the testing facility. He was calling Triple H's bluff directly. If Steiner was going to get fired for steroids, he was going to take the boss's son-in-law down with him. He was going to expose the hypocrisy. The request was immediately dropped. WWE never asked Steiner about drug testing again. Steiner laughed about this incident for years afterward. He said he never failed a drug test in his entire life. He said the whole situation proved the massive hypocrisy within WWE. Triple H was obviously using performance-enhancing drugs, but he was completely protected because of who he married. He was untouchable because he was with Stephanie McMahon. Steiner spent years publicly calling Triple H a punk. He accused him of sleeping his way to the top of WWE. He said Triple H had no real talent in the ring. He only succeeded because of his relationship with Stephanie. He only got opportunities because of backstage politics. He never earned his spot through legitimate ability. But in 2022, something changed. Triple H became the head of WWE Creative after Vince McMahon retired. He took over the entire creative direction of the company. He oversaw the induction of the Steiner brothers into the WWE Hall of Fame. This was a huge moment for Scott and his brother Rick. Steiner behaved professionally during the ceremony. He thanked the fans. He focused on his brother and their tag team legacy. There were no reports of warmth or friendship with Triple H, but there was an obvious truce. The bridge was rebuilt just enough to allow the ceremony to happen. Steiner got his Hall of Fame moment and his place in WWE history, but the hatred is still there underneath. It is just buried for professional reasons. Steiner compromised for the sake of his legacy. Number 1, Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan is Scott Steiner's #1 enemy. This is not a wrestling storyline. This is not an angle. This is genuine real-life hatred. It involves multiple lawsuits. It involves police reports and investigations. It involves credible threats of violence. If Steiner has a white whale, an all-consuming obsession, it is Terry Bollea, known worldwide as Hulk Hogan. The hatred started in WCW during the late 1990s. Hogan had infamous creative control clauses written into his contract. He had the power to veto any storyline or match finish. He controlled the entire main event scene. Steiner had evolved into his Big Poppa Pump character. He was physically impressive. He was charismatic. He was a legitimate star. But Hogan held him down. Steiner saw Hogan as the ultimate backstage politician. He saw him as a pathological liar. He saw him as a man who deliberately sabotaged younger talent to protect his own position at the top of the card. Steiner blames Hogan directly for the complete collapse of World Championship Wrestling. The finger poke of doom incident happened in January 1999. Kevin Nash was WCW champion. Hulk Hogan challenged him. Nash simply laid down on the mat without a fight. Hogan pinned him with one finger. This reunified the New World Order faction. Steiner says this single moment killed WCW's credibility forever. To Steiner, who came from amateur wrestling, this was unforgivable. In amateur wrestling, the best man wins. There is no politics. There is no manipulation. Hogan's manipulation of match outcomes was a professional sin of the highest order. Steiner also says Hogan hated Randy Savage behind the scenes. He said says Hogan projected a false image of brotherhood and friendship. He acted like he and Savage were friends. But behind closed doors, Hogan stabbed Savage in the back repeatedly. He held Savage down. He prevented Savage from getting opportunities. To Steiner, Hogan is a complete phony. He is a fraud who built his entire career on lies. The feud went relatively quiet after WCW was purchased by WWE in 2001, but it exploded again with volcanic intensity in 2010. Hulk Hogan and Garett Bischoff were hired to run TNA Wrestling. Steiner was already on the TNA roster as a featured performer. He personally warned TNA President Dixie Carter that hiring Hogan was a fatal mistake. He told her Hogan would drain the company's financial resources. He said Hogan would only push his old friends from WCW. He said Hogan would alienate the passionate fan base that built TNA. Steiner believes he was proven absolutely right about every single prediction. When Steiner left TNA in 2012, he immediately went after Hogan on social media. He used Twitter to unleash relentless attacks. He called Hogan a destroyer of companies. He said Hogan killed WCW and was now killing TNA. TNA Wrestling filed a lawsuit against Steiner for breach of contract and defamation. They wanted him silenced. Steiner countersued immediately. He alleged TNA owed him royalty payments. He said his contract had expired. He said he had First Amendment free speech rights. This legal war dragged on for years. It was essentially a proxy battle between Steiner and Hogan. But the absolute worst incident happened during WrestleMania 31 weekend in 2015. The location was San Jose, California. The specific date was March 26th, 2015. Steiner went to the San Jose Airport baggage claim area. He approached Hulk Hogan's wife, Jennifer McDaniel. Jennifer did not recognize Steiner initially. She did not know who he was. According to the official police reports filed by Hulk Hogan, Steiner grabbed Jennifer or confronted her very aggressively. He delivered a terrifying message to her. He said he was going to kill Terry Bollea. He said he would do it as soon as Hogan's plane landed at the airport. Jennifer was genuinely terrified for her life and her husband's life. When Hogan's plane arrived and he met his wife, she told him what happened. They immediately went together to the police station. Hogan filed an official report for felony terrorist threats. This is a serious criminal charge. Steiner's version of events is different. He admits he approached Jennifer at the airport. He does not deny that part, but he completely denies making a death threat. He says he called Hogan a punk. He says he challenged Hogan to a fight man-to-man. He also admits to making lewd sexual comments to Jennifer. He said he asked her if she wanted to be with a real man instead of Hogan. He said he wanted to mesmerize her with his physical body. Steiner told TMZ that if Jennifer really felt her life was threatened, she would have screamed for police immediately. She would not have just called Hogan on the phone. He said this is typical Hogan behavior. Hogan is just a punk who hides behind women. Steiner also said that Hogan inducting Macho Man Randy Savage into the WWE Hall of Fame was complete bullshit. Everyone in the wrestling business knew Hogan hated Savage. It was hypocrisy for Hogan to pretend otherwise. The fallout from the airport incident was immediate and severe. Steiner was completely banned from the 2015 WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. Security guards at the SAP Center were issued photographs of Steiner. They had strict orders to deny him entry under any circumstances. This was deeply humiliating for a former world champion. WWE took the threat seriously enough to treat Steiner as a genuine security risk. WWE security successfully barred Steiner from the building. He could not attend the ceremony. No criminal charges were ultimately filed against him. The investigation was dropped, but the damage to his reputation was severe. Steiner and Hogan were cemented as enemies for life. In 2022, Steiner was finally inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame as a part of the Steiner brothers. He reconciled with WWE management enough to accept the honor, but he absolutely did not reconcile with Hulk Hogan. In interviews conducted in 2023 and 2024 with Chris Van Vliet and others, Steiner said he has not forgiven Hogan for anything. He still calls Hogan a coward. He says Hogan hides behind lawyers and security guards. He says Hogan is a punk who refuses to face him man-to-man in a legitimate fight. The airport incident remains the defining moment of their relationship. It represents real-life rage spilling over into potential criminal violence. It represents wrestling's complete inability to contain Scott Steiner. Steiner's hatred. Hulk Hogan is Steiner's Moby Dick. He is the one that got away. He is the one Steiner can never truly defeat, because you cannot fight someone who refuses to fight back. You cannot beat someone who will only face you through lawyers and police reports. To Steiner, Hogan destroyed World Championship Wrestling through politics and greed. He destroyed TNA Wrestling the exact same way. He built a legendary career on lies and manipulation. He is a complete fraud who fooled the world, and Steiner will never let it go. He will never forgive. He will never forget. Scott Steiner's career is ultimately about blurred lines between reality and performance. He completely refused to separate his genuine personal animosities from his on-screen character. He created a legacy that is absolutely unique in wrestling history. He eventually made peace with the institutions like WWE, but he stubbornly refused to make peace with the individual people he felt wronged him. Hulk Hogan is still a punk. Ric Flair is still a bastard. Garett Bischoff is still a weasel. And Scott Steiner remains the big bad booty daddy. He operated by his own mathematics and his own rules. In a business built entirely on working the audience and maintaining illusions, Scott Steiner's greatest trick was that he was never working at all. He was shooting the entire time. The numbers do not lie, and they spell disaster for anyone who ever crossed the genetic freak.